Here we go. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Licensing Jungle. I am Carmine Danisco, your co-host with Jeffrey Mangus, the licensing expert. And today on the show, we have a true legend in the industry. His name is Jim DeBettis, and I have him on the line with us now. Let me introduce him real quick. Hey, Jim, you over there?
Yeah, you said there was a true legend. I wasn't sure who you were talking about, but okay, I'll take it.
I'm just reading off the screen. I didn't write it.
Yeah, that's best. That's it. Just read what's in front of you. You're good.
Well, no, it's great. And, it's funny, Jeffrey and I, we just came off taping a show. We were talking about everything in the licensing industry. We're so excited to have you coming on. And I know that, you've done so much. I'll kind of let Jeffrey jump in and get started, man, because we were excited to have you on the show today.
Cool, yeah, as well.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Thanks, Jim, for being here. It's really great to have you on. I really was excited because Jim's got this vast amount of knowledge, and I'm just really looking forward to getting into it. So if you don't mind, I just got a couple questions I want to get started with. Jim, what do you find is the biggest challenge in licensing for a new inventor, for an inventor who wants to pursue licensing? The ones that you come across, what do you think is the biggest challenge for them?
Yeah, this is a tough one. Well, I think for one thing I've learned over years is a lot of people don't even know what licensing is. They think it's like, is that private labeling your product, like a retailer puts your name on it, or they don't understand it. And I think that there needs to be, believe it or not, more just 101 information about what is licensing, what is it, how does it work, what does it look like for the typical inventor? Because when they go online, they read about how a $1 billion company works with a $1 billion entity or brand. And I think they kind of get thrown by the complexities of that. So I think that's the big thing, just the old basic education. People really don't know what licensing is. And then beyond that, I think a lot of people think it's just easy. Like, oh yeah, you know what? I'm just going to go license my idea to, to Black & Decker. And yeah, they're just going to send me money every week. And they have no idea how hard it is potentially to get the deals, especially if you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to approach all that stuff. I just think the basics are really misunderstood more than we think they are.
I totally agree with you. We were just talking about that, how, the licensing is not a get rich, way to do it. It takes patience. It takes a lot of drive, and it's just not going to happen overnight. And a lot of that for me and from the people that I come in contact with, it is lack of knowledge, and they just don't know. They think it's going to happen. They can just go out and do this. And yes, maybe you can, but honestly, learning processes, learning how to do that and be a professional is crucial. I know I've seen some of your posts in the group about being professional and how, keeping yourself together and being patient. And
patience, that's the key. I mean, people think it happens in a week or a month. I mean, it's a numbers game. You got to approach a number of potential licensees and, get a couple of, people interested, and then you got to start working the deals. And then, that's a whole nother process. So that it's like anything else. It doesn't matter what business you're in. There's a process, there's basic information you have to learn. Yeah, a few people will get rich. There's no question. But that's what sways everybody. Everyone thinks they're going to get rich. And I always say, listen, there's nothing wrong with being a thousandaire. You don't always have to strive to be a millionaire, right? I mean, that's the thing. Everyone thinks if they can't make millions, well, what's the point? What's wrong? A lot of inventors, we all know this, do this part-time. If they have a full-time career or a job and they're dabbling with their product ideas. And I always say, listen, there's nothing wrong with making an extra few hundred or a few grand a month with your product. You don't have to try to go crazy and make a gazillion dollars just to have your product, come to fruition and get licensed and to get some royalties and do a deal is a success. And that's good to do that.
I totally agree with you. I just had this conversation with a student yesterday. The student asked, what kind of money do I think she's going to make? Well, my answer to that question was, I said, look, it's okay. Think about even if you make 30 grand extra a year on your product, right, that you didn't have, and then you work hard and license another product, and you make another 30 grand per year. You're making a little bit of money, and you're subsidized, whatever your situation is, it's better than no money at all and no product out there on the market.
Of course. I mean, that's all day long.
all day long, and so that's exactly right. I personally am not a millionaire, and I love that, I've got money coming in from my products and I feel excited about it, and my family's fine. And my coaching program is all about that. It's about keeping it real, keeping it, to the level of, hey, we can do this, but you're not, yeah, if you make $1 million on your idea, that's perfect. That's great. But because when I hear an inventor say, oh man, this is $1 million idea, I'm going to make millions, I'm not even a company's going to license their idea. I immediately know some things already. It's a red flag that they haven't done research. They're new at this game. So.
Yep. Agree. Totally agree.
Yeah. Yep. So, really quick, what do you feel, is the best place to start when you're a new inventor in the licensing? Where do you feel an inventor should start, as far as, with their ideas? What do you, as an expert?
Well, again, beyond the basic, learn the basics, learn the 101 stuff, and talk to people who are competent in the business like you guys. I mean, that's key. So beyond that, I think we all can agree about what I'm going to say is having a great sell sheet or a very small deck is critical, because this has to speak for you initially. When you're reaching out, I know a lot of people still get on the phone. I'm a big emailer. I find I get a lot more results emailing or even texting buyers or potential licensees than I do getting on the phone. I don't pick up my phone unless I know it's you guys. I'm not answering.
Right.
So, and for the same reasons, these companies don't answer, because they know they're going to get solicited and they don't want to listen to it. And they get trapped on the phone, and that's it. And it's an issue. So having good, being able to have a sell sheet that clearly explains what the product is, how it can benefit them, not telling a 2-page story of your story, why you invented it, your hardships. You know what? I mean, people care about that, but this is a business. And ultimately, the company's not going to really care how or why. It's going to be, can they make money? Can they sell it? Can they make a profit? Whatever. And so having good collateral is key. And you mentioned it, Jeff, managing expectations, not going into this thinking, yeah, I'm going to make $1 gazillion. Go into this thinking, look, this is a challenge. A lot of people don't get deals for various reasons, but to go in there, be prepared, and then also understand how to do a deal. If you send a sell sheet out to a particular company and they have interest, you have to know the basics, like signing non-disclosures and understanding, if I have a patent or if I don't have a patent, is that really urgent enough for me to say, there's different schools of thought when it comes to patents. Some people will take a product to a licensee without any patent protection and still get a deal. I've always been more like, well, if you have a patent, obviously you have more leverage, because now it can't be readily copied so easily. So, in that particular case, having IP is not always needed, but it definitely gives you more leverage in that deal. But really, again, it comes full circle to understanding what the process is. That's it.
That's exactly right. I mean, and that's what I coach. And it's almost like you scripted this for me, Jim, because honestly, really, I am a big, huge advocate on, I train my students to niche down their sell sheets, to focus in on that sell sheet to be in your 70 mile per hour billboard. They've got to get it in seconds. Okay. They don't want it. Yeah. And inventors say, well, I need to tell them my story. No, they don't need your story, because you've already talked to them on the phone. You've already gotten some interest, and then you're going to send your sell sheet to them, and they just need to understand it immediately.
Right.
And that's having a great, picture of your product, really fine tuning the benefit of your product. That you said it. People don't care about your story; they care about how they can make it, how they're going to make money, and how it benefits their customers. That is it in a nutshell.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey guys, a question for you. Hey Jim, question for you. And the information that you guys are giving out is, if people will listen and open their mind, it will be so much easier for them to move their products forward. How do you handle a client that comes to you that is so emotionally attached to their product that they can't stop themselves from just going on and on about it? And do you try to help them, narrow down their pitch?
First of all, again, this is one of those things where the first thing I tell people is, listen, you want to be passionate about what you're doing, but you can't be emotional about it. And there's a big difference. There's a difference between, and I tell people, listen to me. This is not me. It doesn't matter what I think. It's what the potential licensees think. This is a business. They don't care about all your stories. They may care later because they're just human to human. You want to hear people that have gone through something and have succeeded. That's always good to hear. I mean, that's the human element. But this is a business transaction. I've got something. Do you want it? And if you want it, why do I want it? And why should I really feel like I need to invest in that product and pay you a royalty? So I really, it always comes down to that kind of a thing where people just, they call up and they're very excited and they tell me they put their life into it and they've invested everything. I always tell them, listen, this is a high risk business. It's a cutthroat business like a lot of businesses. And you got to be prepared to hear a lot of no before you hear some yeses. You may never hear a yes. You may hear 5 yeses, but you got to just be methodical in your approach. You have, like you said, your 70-mile-an-hour billboard sales sheet. You're prepared to have a discussion. You're prepared to do a business deal. They're going to, if they are interested and they send an offer sheet, they're going to send you a deck of paper that is a lot of legalese that you may not understand. And that's when your story becomes nothing and it all becomes about doing a business deal. So I always tell them, listen, it's important to manage expectations. It's important for me to manage your expectations and let you know that right off the bat, this is a tough gig to go through. But if you listen to me and you work with me or, you work with Carmine, you work with Jeff, whoever, if you just trust in the process that we know has worked because we've done this a million times, your odds of success are going to be much greater than if you go in there and just try to do it on your own. And, I know there are a lot of people that say, no, everything can be done on your own. And I think if you're taught, you can do those things, but you need to learn by people who have done it. I always tell people the best way to learn is to learn from people who've done it, failed, and succeeded, and live by their wisdom and experience. But yeah, I a lot of times I cut people off right at the knees, Carmine. I'm like, listen, stop. Here's how it's going to go. Here's what's going to happen when you send the sales sheet out. You're going to send out 10 emails, and you're not going to get an email back in 10 minutes. I promise you. If you do, I'm going to fall off my chair. But ready for waiting and following up and calling and emailing. And once you do, then you got to know how to react to that email and what to say. And again, it becomes all business at that point.
That's exactly right. I mean, that's, again, that's what I coach. And I'm really glad to hear from you that it's reaffirming for me that I'm giving the right knowledge, because I tell people, you got to know exactly what to say, even on a follow-up. You got to know what to say and how to handle these situations with these companies when they offer you term sheets and they want to move forward. You need to know the process, and you can't really, you can do it on your own, but you really need someone to guide you through. Whether it's an attorney, whether it's a coach, it doesn't matter. You still need help, but it's just one of those things you have to do. Just have to do
this, like my kids, we're at, our family's house here on vacation, and the air conditioning went. And, one of my kids says, why don't you just go out there and just go fix it? Just go fix the air conditioner. Just go out there and just take it apart. No, it's like 1,000 little friggin' pieces in there. I wouldn't hear that thing. I know what I don't know. And so I either will call somebody who does know what they're doing to do it professionally. I save more money by having somebody come in and do it right than me trying to Home Depot it, and you're creating chaos. And then I don't know if I spent money, but I spent my time, and then I still have to call somebody. And so now I spend twice as much money. So no matter what it is that you're doing, it doesn't matter what business it is. If you just don't know, you don't know, and you have to work with people or learn the process from somebody that knows what the hell they're doing, bottom line.
Right. That's it. And you said something earlier on that I kind of want to go back to, if you don't care, talking about dealing with rejection, dealing with no's. You're going to get them. And inventors I see it a lot. I talk to them a lot. They don't really know how to handle it. They think if they get one no, they're going to stop. They got to stop, and they go in hibernation and forget about their product. But I encourage them. Hey, you're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to get a whole lot of them if you're doing something. And you got to be proud of yourself that you're doing something. At least you're doing something and moving forward with your product. And that's when do you agree with me that inventors just got to keep going? They just got to keep pushing.
Look, I use a baseball analogy for those people that, watch baseball. Like, if you hit 300, right, as a hitter, you're only getting a hit 3 times out of every 10 times you're at bat. You're an all-star, right? You're an amazing player. That's only 3.
Wow.
Right.
So, I always tell people, listen, This is a business of no. It is a business of no. If it was that easy, everybody that had a product would be on the cover of Entrepreneur, Fast Company, Inc. Everybody would be gazillionaires. Everyone would be floating on yachts in the Caribbean all day long. It's a tough business. The biggest gross domestic product entity in this world is consumer products. I mean, they're everywhere. I think there's so many products out there. How hard it is to get your product in the mix of all these other things. And the big companies that you license to know how to do it better than we do. Let's face it. I mean, they've got the brand, the money, the marketing process. They've got the retail placement. They're already there. So they've got a huge leg up. But yes, if you're not willing to accept 9.5 no's out of every 10 times you pitch, especially in the beginning, you don't belong in this business. You don't belong pitching. You don't belong talking to people. And you just got to, like you said, here's the emotional thing. Put it away. Who cares? It's a numbers game. Call on 10, 20, 30, 50, whatever you got to do, but pick the right companies that are a fit. But again, if you know what you're doing, you know how to pitch, you know what to say, your odds go up a little bit. You have a better shot. And when someone does react, you know what to do with that. Very important.
That's exactly right. And so, yeah, you having the experience that you have and you deal with a lot of inventors, what do you, let's go to the question of when, let's say someone gets offered a term sheet, where do you think inventors fail at that point? What have you seen the most?
Well, they either don't know how to understand the terms of the term sheet, or they immediately get offended and they say, what? I got to do this, or I only get that. I only get this in royalties, and there's no guarantees. They get very upset or emotional about what's in there. And I say, look, again, this is a back and forth negotiation. If you understand how these deals are typically done, what's negotiable, what's not, what you can expect. And this is where sometimes I get into the IP, like the patent stuff, where if you have a solid utility patent or multiple patents, you can drive more of that deal, or maybe get a higher royalty percentage, or maybe get some upfront dollars, or get some minimal royalty guarantees and things of that nature. Again, this all comes down to knowledge. If people get these term sheets, it's legal, they're a legal document. They don't understand them. They don't understand what to do or what's normal. And so a lot of people will email me and say, hey, Jim, I'm in the middle of talking to XYZ company. They sent me this. I don't know what's right, what's wrong. Are they taking advantage? Am I getting enough? And then, you got to talk them through those things. And it depends on the product, the company, the category. I mean, you guys know this. It all depends on a lot of things. But yeah, they have to understand how to deal with and understand the terminology that comes along with these deals and how it affects them long term. I've had clients where, I tell them, I go, listen, a lot of times licensees will take your product and they'll shelve the concept for a year or two just to get you off, that competitive product potentially off the market. And you don't have any guarantees that there'll be any payout for you. Now you've not only signed your life away there, but you're going to get nothing. And now are you going to go fight them legally, a much bigger entity? You're already lost. You're already losing. Now you're going to lose more. So there's so many intricacies. I mean, in theory, I know it sounds easy for people listening to say, oh, I'm just going to call up, XYZ company and do a deal. There's just so much that goes in. Just selling it to a company is just the first step in having a successful. People get licensing deals. They're not always successful. I can get a deal that's crappy for me. I want to get a deal that's good for me, and there's another level of work.
Well, I'm going to tell on myself here real quick, and then I'm sure Carmine has some questions. I'm going to tell on myself, when I was a brand new inventor, when I say brand new, this is 2005. I had no clue what I was doing. I did develop a product, and I pitched it to. It was in the gasoline industry, oil industry. I pitched it, and yes, I had no clue what I was doing. And I got to the point when the company actually called and said, "What do you want?" And as a novice inventor, I had this astronomical amount that I threw at them, and when I threw that number at them, all I heard was crickets. I mean, it was like immediately I was shut down. If I would have known what I was doing, I believe if I would have understood what the terms were and understood, I probably would have had a successful deal. But that didn't happen because I call it top loading. I top loaded it real a lot.
Of course, yeah.
And that's what I wanted to bring that to attention. So mistakes are made, but you can learn from them. And I learned from that mistake.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of where I was going, and I just love about as Jim's talking about education, knowledge, and experience, and 100%. I mean, if I'm looking to better myself, my family's life, and I have this idea that I believe is going to be big, why wouldn't I educate myself, bring on somebody like Jim or Jeffrey, and utilize that to my advantage? I mean, I could never go into a company cold and think that I knew everything when, this product, I mean, how many chances do you get, Jim? You walk into a company and you blow it. I mean, are they going to let
No, you're done. You're done. And I tell people, look, I've said this on many podcasts or interviews, but it always rings true. When I want my taxes done, I know people will shy away. I go to an accountant. I know I'm going to get, I have to pay, but I'm going to get more money on my return than if I tried to do it on my own. If I'm sick, I go to the doctor. I don't try to self-medicate or self-diagnose. Whatever it is, it's the air conditioning store. If the air conditioning breaks, I call an air conditioning pro. It doesn't mean that I can't attempt to learn what they're doing, or if it's something minor, I could try to do it myself. I'm not suggesting to people that they have to fully rely on everybody else, because ultimately what we want to be able to teach people and help them do is to be able to, if not the first time, the second or third time, be able to do it on their own. But you need to learn, and there is nothing better than learning from people who do this every single day. And people say, well, yeah, but it costs money. Of course it costs money. Everything costs money. I wake up spending money. The lights are on, you eat, everything has a cost to it. But, what's the cost of doing it incorrectly? What's the cost of Carmine blowing that deal? You can't go back to them. Now they know you don't know what you're talking about. They'll take full advantage if they even talk to you again. Mm-hmm. And you're screwed right from the beginning. So having that, like you said, that knowledge and experience and access to it, it doesn't cost a fortune. It's worth investing. Anybody that's successful, I don't care if it's any CEO, any entrepreneur, from the Bill Gates and the Warren Buffetts on down, they will all tell you the same thing. They invest in knowledge. They invest in experts. They reach out to people who know more than they do. They know who, when they don't know what they're talking about, and they surround themselves with the best possible people. And people like us try to minimize the cost. I always like to say, I try to be inventor friendly. I try to understand that I was there too. And so, yes, I feel like I could charge more for things because I feel like my experiences warrant that. But we also all have programs and things that are low cost. I mean, from books to audio downloads to little, basic programs to help people to learn and then either do it on their own ultimately, or have us just kind of hold their hand through the process. And that's important in any business, whatever it is you're doing.
That is exactly right. My coaching program, that's what I take pride in is teaching them the process so they can do it on their own. But yes, I'm always their coach. I'm always their friend at the end of the day to help them out, even after the program ends. And that's important to be able to have that, just like people that you come in contact with. If you get to a point where you don't understand, you need to have somebody that you can reach out to guide you through it. I totally agree with you. So another question real quick. What is your recommendation if someone's brand new that doesn't even have an idea but wants to license? What would be your recommendation to where they start? Where is the very first place they start?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing they have to make sure is that idea isn't somebody else's idea. So I always tell people, look, you can first go on the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office website, which is uspto.org. Mm-hmm. And do a basic patent search and a trademark search if they already have a name for the product. And it can be a little tricky and sometimes very difficult to understand what search terms and how to navigate the searching of that. But I mean, if you type in whatever and then it pops right up and somebody either possesses a patent or, whatever, you might be dead in your tracks right there. What a lot of people make the mistake of doing is they go online, they go to Amazon or Walmart and they look for their product idea and they say, hey, Jim, listen, I went on, I have an idea for a product. I went on the internet, I looked for it, and I don't see it. I'm like, that's a huge mistake. I said, because a lot of people that file patents don't follow through. They either file the patent, they just abandon it. They go back to their day job. They just lost interest. They didn't have the money to make it happen. So a lot of things that don't exist doesn't mean that there isn't a patent or patent pending for it. So either you do that or, you hire, a patent attorney or agent, or even use, sites like LegalZoom or whatever to do a thorough patent search. If you're free and clear, then I think what the next question I always get from people is, what's it going to cost me if let's say they're not going to do the licensing route. Let's say they're going to do the route that I usually help people with, which is to get it developed and sold to retail. They'll say, what's it going to cost me from start to finish? I don't know, but we got to get quotes. You got to go to a product design firm. We got to see what it costs to get, the CAD drawings, the mechanical drawings of your product, which a factory needs in order to quote, to make it and mass produce it. You've got to find out what it costs per piece to make your product. You got to have a website. You got to have, there's a lot of little things. You got to have a package made for your product. There's all sorts of costs that are involved. So the next step, the first step would be to make sure you're free and clear. Second step is if you are, you've got to reach out to the particular vendors who will help you develop and make the product and find out what it costs to do that. And then once you understand that, then you can proceed. If it's licensing, obviously, you still want to make sure that that product is not taken by somebody else. But then you have to find out, what does it cost to have somebody help me, make a sales sheet or help me understand the process and take me through the process. So those are the first few things. A lot of people skip that step. I've seen people make products and not even, I'm supposed to do a patent search. I've had people say that more than a few times. And I'm like, you are lucky that somebody hasn't done that. But people do that. It's very common. So yeah, you got to do your homework first, check around and make sure.
Well, that's exactly what we were just talking about earlier. That's the first step that I encourage my students to do, is research the market. I'm talking about, don't just glean over it, and dig in and look and do a lot of it yourself. You can, but then if you're still not satisfied, yes, hire a patent attorney or someone to do a prior art search. Get in, but you want to know, and then also you want to determine where the market is. If there is even a market in period. And you're right. I see that just like you do. They've developed products, they've patented, they spent a lot of money on prototypes and patents, and they still don't even know who their market is, or if there even is one. And then they're kind of discouraged, and they're kind of they feel like they're dead in the water. So
yeah, and another side problem to that is people sometimes say, Jim, I have an idea that's so novel, it's so unique, it doesn't exist. And they say, isn't that great? I'm like, sometimes that's not great, because at retail, if there's no product category for it, there's no buyer for it. There's no shelf space. There's no internet space. If you come to me, I always think of like commodities like toothpaste or razor blades, where there's, 10 different brands. I'm like, yeah, there's other people competing with you, but there's a category. So if you make the new and improved or better version of that, then there's an audience for it. There's a potential licensee for it. Everybody wants what's new. That's how retail thrives. We're not selling VCRs anymore, right? We've got everything evolves to the next thing. So if you've got the next latest and greatest, or something that improves or solves a problem that the old product didn't have, there's a market for that. And that's a better shot than coming up with a widget that no one's ever seen, heard. Not to say that still can't do well, because obviously products do well there too. But I think you have a better shot at having a product that's an improvement or a variation on a theme that people can readily accept and understand what it is without deep explanation through a sales sheet, for example. And the retail community understands that there's a category for this product, and they can just push it into their assortment if it's something that is really, better or more advantageous than what they have now.
Well, and going back to something real quick I wanted to bring, that you brought to the attention of the audience, is that at some point an inventor has to decide which path to take. Do I license the product, or do I go to manufacture? And either way, you need to know what's going to be involved in either path. And it's important, to do the research and learn what you got to learn to either take each path. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I've talked about this many times. There's risks and rewards to both. And I always tell people the quick answer is, when you license, there's very little upfront costs, sometimes no cost, so to speak, other than the basic, sell sheets, some education, whatever. Right. But it's minimal cost. But the reward potential is potentially, it can be great, but it's not as great as the retail side. Now, flipping to the retail side, the disadvantages is a lot of upfront costs. You're paying for everything. So you got to have some money to go that route. But if you are selling your own products and you're making $5 for every $10 sold versus a 5% royalty, making an example, the potential to make money can be greater. Now, there's always, things in there that change. You could license something and it could be a huge hit, and the company that's licensing it could be a big brand, and they could sell millions and millions and millions, and you could make a lot of money. So it could go either way. But I always tell people there are risks and rewards. If you don't have the time to run a business, you should license. If you don't want to be hands-on and you're an idea person and you have something that's unique that people want, license. If you want to be in your own business, you want to build a legacy, you want to have your family get involved in it, you want to just run and be an entrepreneur, run a business, then going the retail route is the way to go too. I don't think there's a wrong answer. I think a lot of times it's what's appropriate for that person, what age they are, what their life situation is, what they want from it. They're all good paths. You just have to understand which one is best for you.
I totally agree with you. And that's, because I do talk to a lot of inventors who a lot of times they are confused as to which path to take. And then they worry about investors and they worry about all these things that they honestly at the stages they're in, they shouldn't worry about yet. Those are things that I feel that when you're first starting out, you really need to, learn the basics and get someone who's going to help you, before you even worry about getting an investor or, getting funding and crowdfunding and all this stuff that I hear them worry about, so.
Yeah.
Hey Jim, real quick. And I listen to what you guys are talking about, and I live it every day, just like you guys. So it's just like, wow, man, it's just so nice to be talking with people that kind of understand the whole ins and outs of all this. And I don't know if inventors or product developers realize going to a retailer, the costs that are involved, even for the retailer side. I think that people think, oh, the retailer is going to love my product, but there's so much money that the retailer would even have to put out if they take your product, probably like advertising. How are you going to get people to the store to find the product? Like, there's a lot of other things that I don't think the inventors realize when a retailer takes on a product.
Yeah, and there are. And again, it's a business. These companies are layered. They've got requirements. They got to have winning products. They can't afford too many losing products. And yes, when you approach a retailer, they get people. We all return things, right? There's a cost in bringing something back, whether it's defective or not. They've got to advertise, and they want you to help participate through co-op to advertise their brand, not your product per se. But if Target or Walmart wants to remain in the forefront of consumers' minds, they've got to run commercials. They've got to be online. They've got to email blast you to death. Whatever they got to do, you have to help participate in that. And like you said, there's just all kinds of costs that they've got tens of thousands of store employees. They've got to pay for those people. There's signage. There's endless cost involved. And even if you license, ultimately the product is going to wind up at retail. So the retailer's cost is the same regardless of how they achieve the product, how it comes into their hands. And I think the big thing that I want to make sure I say, even if it's a little off here, is, we all work with inventors every day. And I think that it's important that and I know we do this, that we don't promise people things. We don't say, you're definitely going to be 100% successful, or I'm telling you, Jane or Joe, that you're going to make it. We want to encourage people. We don't want to be negative, but I think being realistic is what we all do well. And like I said, it's a tough business. And I think a lot of inventors, I know, they get very upset, and they get upset with whether it's us or the industry at large or anybody when their product doesn't succeed well. And I'm very careful to tell people, like I know you guys are, that this is a risky business. The odds are that you may not succeed, and it's a business of no. And a lot of times people give up too soon. Inventors they'll try for a couple months and they stop. They don't realize that sometimes 6 months down the road is where the glory is. And it's just, I want people to understand this, because I run into this occasionally where people get upset because they feel like we haven't done something right. But if we do what we say we're going to do, and we let them know of the risks and rewards of the business, this is the emotional attachment side. They get very upset that their product didn't make it. And I'm like, listen, that's the way it goes. It's like anything you do, any business, I don't care what business it is, the odds are against you, but you increase the odds by having people help you that know what they're doing. But it doesn't guarantee anything. We all want everybody to be successful. You want to help people. There's no question. But it's a tough thing for people to swallow, and then blame gets assigned everywhere. But you have to sometimes look at everything, and it's a holistic approach. It's did we try hard enough? Was the product good enough? Was the pricing right? Was the packaging right? Did the buyers at retail just not like the product or feel like they have something that's too similar. Maybe it's not the right timing. There's lots of reasons why, but people have to know that. I don't care if it's you're pitching to licensees or you're pitching to retailers. It's a tough road, and you have to have a thick skin, and you have to be willing to stay at it and understand that those few yeses can be the launch pad, pardon the pun, Carmine, but to get you to that next level. And sometimes that's all it takes. You get one deal or whatever, and it allows things to domino forward. And that's how I think this business works, like a lot of businesses. But you have to be ready for that. And I think that's what we all do a good job of telling people, that it's not easy. It's not.
Well, that's exactly. I mean, that is one of the first things that I say to a student. I tell them, I cannot ever guarantee you a licensing agreement. I don't ever guarantee you anything. What I am going to guarantee you is you're going to get the tools that is going to help you be successful, help you. Okay. And it sets the tone right off the bat. So there's expectations already set. I'm going to do everything in my power to help you. Yes, but I can't guarantee anything. So it's really good. But Jim, it's been absolutely fantastic having you on. The information you've given is just, man, my mind's spinning. I got so many questions. It's like crazy, but been really great. Thank you so much for being on.
No, thanks for having me, guys. I'm glad. I think the more we get the message out about how this business works, it just benefits anybody.
Yeah. Hey Jim, real quick, and I know that you focus more on getting products into retail, and how should somebody get in touch with you if that's the route they want to take?
Yeah, well, I as I always say, it's not hard to find anybody these days. I've got a couple of websites. The one that we built last year is, it's We Know Business. It's pretty, weknowbusiness.info, not .com or .org, but weknowbusiness.info, or my name, jimdebetta.com. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. They can go any of those places and connect with me. I answer, I think, every email, ultimately, every text message, every private message that comes across. I try to respond to people and at least acknowledge that they're reaching out. So I'm good that way. And like you guys, I mean, we're there, we're visible, and we try to make sure that people can see what we're doing and how we're helping. So I appreciate it.
No, excellent, man. Excellent. We really appreciate your time today. I know that it helped the listeners out there, because it's just educating, giving out the knowledge, and letting people know that there are people like you, like Jeff, like us, that are willing to help them. So for myself, Carmen Nidisco, for Jeffrey Mangus and the licensing jungle, I appreciate you spending some time with us, Jim, and we'll talk to you soon, my friend.
You got it. Thanks, guys.
Take care.